All right, we'll go ahead and start. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad to have you here for our USC Viterbi School of Engineering Admissions Team AMA. If you'd like to talk during the AMA, feel free to use the thread in the event chat channel. And then before we start with some of our main topic questions, let's have our guests introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Paul Ledesma. I'm the Executive Director of Undergraduate Admission here at the USC Viterbi School of Engineering. My job is to make sure that we have a group of students that will be studying engineering and computer science as undergraduates. And so I lead our office in making sure that we recruit, admit, and enroll incoming first-year students and also incoming transfer students. I'm also joined today by one of my colleagues, Angie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Angie. I'm the Senior Assistant Director. I support Paul and all of those things that he just mentioned, in addition to also doing work with transfer students for the Viterbi School.
All right, it's nice to meet you guys. Without further ado, we'll get right into some of the questions that were submitted to us by the subreddit and the Discord.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about Viterbi's undergraduate research opportunities?
You bet. I can start this one off, and then Angie, fill in wherever you see necessary. I think research is it's a question we get a lot of, and the good thing to know is that there's a lot of research going on at USC, and a good portion of that research is done in the Viterbi School of Engineering. Over $213 million in our annual research expenditures are being done in the engineering school. This is almost half of the entire university's research budget is done inside of the engineering school. And when you compare research expenditures to tenure track faculty, this is one of the highest dollar amounts of research dollars spent per tenure track faculty of almost any engineering school in the world. And I say all that because that means there's more opportunities for undergraduates to get involved in research at USC and the Viterbi School, probably more than anywhere else, just because the sheer volume per capita, for lack of a better term. So research is a big part of the school. We are a research extensive institution because we offer up to the PhD in every one of our academic programs, and so that benefits our undergrads. We're also unique in that we're not a traditional research school, in that the faculty that are doing that research are also teaching our students as undergraduates, which means that when students come in as undergraduates, they're creating relationships and opportunities to learn more about these things. When faculty are doing research projects, they're bringing that discussion straight into the classroom because all of your classes are taught by faculty, never taught by a TA or a graduate student, and students are involved across the board. When students ask about research opportunities, there isn't a defined list like you might find at other schools because there isn't a kind of a set limit on what students can do. Students can get involved in any one of those research projects that faculty are doing. And students can get involved however they like to do, whether that's just getting involved or in volunteering by talking to their faculty. They may take a class that takes them into the research world, or they may just get involved in one of our undergraduate programs that's specifically designed to get students into the research labs as early as their first year, like CURVE, which is the Center for Undergraduate Research at Viterbi Engineering, where it's a fully funded program to pay undergraduates in somewhat like a stipend to get involved outside of their academics and get involved in that research as early as their first year. So lots of opportunities across the board.
Yeah, and I guess you said most of everything, Paul, but just to, no, it's okay. I think a lot of our students get involved in research related to their interest in engineering and computer science, but we've had students in the past who do research outside of engineering and computer science as well. So it's kind of, I think we'll get to talk a little bit more about our curriculum and stuff, but we encourage students to do things beyond engineering. And of course, we're here representing the Viterbi School, but your opportunities are not just limited to engineering or computer science related research within the Viterbi School.
All right. That sounds excellent. Thank you so much. Our next question was, how customizable are degree plans? Are students able to double major?
Sure. I'll start attacking that a little bit. This word customizable is really interesting. We're getting this question more and more. And I'll answer with both questions. No, not at all customizable. But probably what you want to do is built into our degree programs that we offer. I think it's important to understand that we're an accredited program. The ABET accreditation standards, which is the ABET, which is an acronym, the Accreditation Board of Engineering and Technology, is a standardization that's built across all the reputable, like, good engineering schools, and that the university and the academic program is accredited, and also individual degree programs are accredited. And that means that there are strict standards by which for example, a mechanical engineering degree is offered at one institution means that the same, what ABET would refer to as the same transfer of knowledge, is being given to that student that you would find at any other institution. So a student getting a mechanical engineering degree at USC would have the same amount of information and transferable skills that a student at Stanford and Berkeley and UCLA would also have. And so that's an important element to understand. And so customizable would imply that you can just change things, and you can't. You can't just say, oh, I don't want to take thermodynamics. I don't want to take heat transfer inside to get that mechanical engineering degree program. And I think most of our audience understands that. But what's important to understand, and I think this is why it was kind of tagged in on that question, is that doesn't mean that you're limited to just doing that one thing. When people look at our degree programs, you'll notice that while we have 10 areas of engineering, and that's really broad in and of itself, there are nearly 30 unique undergraduate bachelor's degrees because of all the specializations and emphases and hybrid programs that exist in our undergraduate program. I mean, just to give you an example, when someone's looking at, for example, biomedical engineering, there are 4 different unique biomedical engineering degree programs. Biomedical engineering, just straight with no specific emphasis, and students can kind of hop around based on specializations, or a specialization in molecular cellular engineering, or a specialization in mechanical engineering, or a specialization in electrical engineering. So that's BME mechanical, BME electrical, etc. So there's so many different opportunities. Our academic programs are outlined on our website for people to dive in and see more. And you can see that this is not, I'm giving biomedical as one example, but of course computer science has computer science business, computer science games, etc. And I know there's lots of questions about that. And so people can kind of, when someone tells me that they want to customize something, I always ask them, what do you want to do? And I usually have a degree program already built into that. Outside of that, there are great opportunities to do things outside of engineering, and that's the latter half of this program that I really want Angie to jump in on, with the opportunities to minor outside of engineering, which you're not limited to, or if you wanted to pursue a double major. And this concept of taking courses outside of engineering is what we call Engineering Plus. Angie?
Sure. So one of the question was, can you double major? Sure, but you might also be at USC for 5 years, maybe more. So you kind of, Paul was alluding to this, that the degrees in engineering and computer science are set to be completed in no more and no less than 4 years. A double major might add some additional time to that. I think it's more common to see our students minor. And what this idea of Engineering Plus is, it's a philosophy that all of our students at the Viterbi School, they're engineers or computer scientists, plus and something else, and that like blank something else is for all of you to decide what you want to do outside of engineering or computer science. So you can minor in business. That's I would say one of the top kind of minors or areas of interest for engineering and computer science students. You can minor in dance, you can minor in music, you can just take cinema classes, you can continue to learn a certain language, or maybe even learn a new language if you wanted to. And so it's absolutely possible, because we build into the degrees and the curriculums this space to do and take classes outside of engineering. So again, we're not just an engineering school. We're representing the engineering school, but USC is not just an engineering or technical school. We have over 100, I think 90 majors and just as many minors for students to do. So to boil it down, yes, you can double major, you can minor. It's just a matter of making sure it might take you longer to complete at USC. And if this is something that you want to do, this is something that you should talk to an advisor. If you're admitted to USC, have that plan coming in. I know I want to do something extra. How do I work it into my schedule? The earlier you know, the better that you can build it into the curriculum.
Yeah, that was one of our biggest questions. So that answer was really helpful. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Our third question is, what specific opportunities and programs does Viterbi offer?
What specific opportunities and programs does Viterbi offer? This is a fascinating question that we get a lot of, which is like, what makes you so special?
Yeah.
What do you offer that no one else does? And I find that really, really interesting, because I know that our audience, everyone that's out there listening right now, is trying to understand how to determine what the best school or program is. And I similar to my other question, I have kind of two sides of this answer. When you look at this is the worst example I can come up with. If you look at the mayonnaise aisle, the mayonnaise options at your grocery store, yeah, they're all different, but they're all basically the same thing. Is Hellman's better than Best Foods? And some would tell you that that's actually the same thing, knowing that. But this is a really interesting idea of what would make a student really enjoy or find something special about a program. And I've even been asked this by our faculty, which is like, can you do this very in-depth analysis of what makes us so special? And the answer is really nothing. I mean, there isn't one thing that we offer that another engineering school somewhere else in the country doesn't also offer. I can give you some highlights of things, which is, all classes taught by faculty. The opportunity to be part of a unique program that is, not locking you into something. I think that's a really important element that we might discuss at some point, but the idea that you're never locked into your major. Someone could be admitted to a program, realize that they don't like it, and switch to something else in engineering, and you don't have to apply again. And so that flexibility of program is rather unique, but again, not solely unique to us. The opportunity to engage in research at the depth and breadth that we offer, the opportunities to engage in other academic elements that we talked about before with Engineering Plus, minors, academic programs. I think that the breadth of Engineering Plus is unmatched in any other institution just because we're part of USC. There's no other university that has the same amount of programs than USC, whether that be dance or business or music or fine arts or theater, cinema, whatever it's going to be. Students are getting involved across all of those. But at the end of the day, there's probably something else that you can find somewhere. What I found really fascinating when I actually did an in-depth kind of benchmark analysis of other engineering schools out there a few years back when faculty were asking us, tell us exactly how we're cooler. I told them, I said, we're not. But what I did find is that all these things I just mentioned, in addition to what our size is, I mean, that's another unique element, is that we're really small. We only are enrolling 410 incoming students in each incoming class. Our incoming engineering first year class is around 410 students. That's our target enrollment, 410 students each year. So it's very, very small. 410 students across 10 academic areas. That ratio likely doesn't exist at any other school that students are looking at. But again, does small make us special? No. But what I did find is that all of those things, including a couple others, there isn't any other school that does all of those things together with our size, our scope, and our available resources. It is the full picture. And what I end up telling students is be cautious about what universities are starting to do, which is creating boutique, marketable programs that sound cool because they're doing it because you're asking them. What sounds cool? What is the coolest thing at your school? What's new that no one else offers? And there are programs being created at many universities, USC included, that are just trying to hook you on something that sounds cooler. And does that make it better for you? I don't think that is the case. And keep in mind that when you're studying or going down the world of engineering and computer science, an undergraduate degree in engineering and computer science is not the end of the road. It is just the beginning of what you want to do. And you might be on this road and this pathway where you will evolve and apply it to different things. So keep in mind that sometimes there's some really cool things out there that sound cool, but is it accredited? Is it a program that actually has a history of staying power? Is it industry recognized, or is it just something brand new that's being created? So I think, long story short, no, but no one does all of these things in one spot.
I think you said everything, Paul. So I don't really have anything to add.
Sorry, I went on for a little while. I apologize.
No, you're good.
Yeah, that was a great tie-in. Kind of related to that, does that imply that the opportunities offered are exclusive to Viterbi students, or are they offered to the other colleges as well?
Most things for the Viterbi school is specifically related to just engineering students.
All right.
Yes.
Sounds good. Moving on to the next question. How does Viterbi prepare students for life after graduation?
Angie, why don't you start so I'm not taking this all over?
Sure. I think, I guess I'll focus career-wise, because ultimately that's kind of what this question is asking, right? Will I find a job after I graduate? That kind of stuff. So and this is one of those very specific Viterbi things, we do have a very unique kind of career center just for our engineering and computer science students. And so that career center, Viterbi Career Connections, full-time staff who work with students individually to help them find those opportunities for internships, for postgraduate opportunities. So, if right now, actually, I just I'm volunteering at this. We have a 3-day career fair happening on campus just for engineering and computer science students. We've got dozens, if not hundreds of employers coming to campus, giving small information sessions to students. In a very small, I would say 40 to 50 students, for example, were in a session today for Abbott. And they're meeting with employers individually, and they're also getting the chance to share their resume and that kind of stuff that also has been crafted, and the Career Center advisors have helped them create those resumes and mock interviews. So we have resources dedicated to that. Ultimately, I think how Viterbi prepares students for postgraduate opportunities, in one, you're going to have to go to classes. You're learning those technical skills in the class, but you're also kind of learning those other skills outside of the class through research, through your design teams, the organizations and clubs you join. All those things in combination are going to prepare you for a professional world. And the majority of our students go to the industry after they graduate. Some students do master's programs, or even PhD programs, and our students are well prepared to go into highly selective academic master's and PhD programs. I'm kind of focusing more on careers because that's where ultimately about, I would say, 70 to 75% of our students do after they earn their BS. But that's one of the ways that Viterbi is preparing students for postgraduate. Paul, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, you said it all. I'll just say one thing. This is not unique to USC, but students with engineering degrees they're the most in demand. They're always in demand across all the different disciplines. They have the highest starting salary of any student coming out of an undergraduate degree program. That's not a USC thing. That is across the board. And so I want people to know that when you get an engineering degree, you do quite well. We're not unique in that. I am happy to say that students do, according to recent surveys, it is the most our Viterbi students are reporting higher starting salaries than the nationwide average, about 25 to 30% higher. I'm not saying that just because you go to USC you get a higher starting salary, but our students do quite well.
All right. That was a great answer. Thank you so much. Another thing kind of relating to your specialty, Angie, this question is, how do transfer admissions work at Viterbi? Are there any requirements students need to meet before they can apply?
Sure. First, I'll say this. I'm going to talk about this very generally, and transfer admission is very complex. We have a whole hour information session dedicated just for that, and even then, students still leave with tons of questions after that. Transfer admission is very different from freshman admission, and yes, there are very specific requirements that students have to meet in order to apply as a transfer student. At least 2 calculus courses or higher, minimum calculus 2 in progress when you apply, 2 lab science courses or programming courses if you're a computer science applicant, and you have to meet our writing requirement, which is our Writing 130 course. That's the most simplest thing I could say right now in terms of what is required for the transfer admission process. And ultimately, the transfer admission process is very different from the freshman process in that we are going to focus much more on academics and how prepared a student is to perform in the engineering and computer science curriculum based on how well they've done at their previous institution, whether that's a 4-year or a community college. That's going to be kind of basically the biggest part of our transfer review process. And this is very different from our freshman process, and I think we'll get to that in a bit, where we don't have those kinds of requirements. We're not requiring calculus 2. We're not requiring specific science or programming based on major. And that's all. I don't want to go into too much depth about transfer admission, but I think one of the things that we'll maybe do, we'll share a link because we have a very specific page dedicated to transfer admission requirements, and also joining one of our transfer advisement sessions that I usually lead, so I can go into much more depth about the transfer process.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I want to say is that if anyone's in high school, you should not be looking at the transfer process. That is not something that you want to do. Let's go down the road of applying as a first-year student. Let's find out what happens. And also, you're exploring that with a number of different institutions. The idea of applying to college is challenging, and I know everybody, and I can see the chat where everybody is so stressed out, and I get that it's challenging, and what you think your chances are versus what they actually are aren't necessarily true. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we're having people apply and giving us the opportunity to understand you, because this process is all about understanding who you are. And I don't want people to pull themselves out of the process because they think they don't have a chance and then go down the transfer route. That's a wrong way of doing it. If you think of it this way, you've got two chances of admission. One is a first-year student, one is a transfer student. Why would you eliminate your first-year student opportunities? So let's go down that road first. And then our transfer process, I put a link in the chat so you can understand how to help.
All right, that was very insightful. Thank you. Kind of backing off of that question, some users were wondering what the process looks like to transfer internally to Viterbi from another school such as Dorn's Life.
So just a correction, is Dorn's Life? There's no L in that word.
All right.
There's a lot of people out there that for some reason have sometimes turned that into life, and there's the name is Dorn's Life, just as a heads up.
All right,
No, sorry. It happens even at USC. Professional staff members do it all the time, and I don't know where that comes from. So anyway, if a student finds themselves at USC and they are not in the engineering school, but they want to apply to transfer in, it is a challenging uphill. The metaphor is you're going uphill and that road is blocked, and it's an impacted program. And I know that this is related to students thinking that it's harder to get into engineering than it is to USC, and that is not true. It is not anywhere near harder to get admitted to engineering at USC than it is to USC overall. If someone is thinking that they are trying to strategize their admission process in applying to a different major, and you're thinking about engineering or that works for you, you're hurting your chances because you're not giving us the opportunity to help us understand you and give you a shot inside the engineering program. If you're admitted to the USC outside of that, and you come in and you say, I want to be an engineer now, we will put you through the engineering school. And I don't say we, because actually our admission office is not involved in this process. But the Viterbi school will put you through at least a year of prerequisite coursework. And then you would have to apply at a future date, of which it will be an impacted process for internal students. It's not impacted coming in, but it is impacted for internal students. And so there would have to be room for you. And I will tell you that we will likely be full. And so that is really important to understand. And I know that sometimes college counselors and some people think that they're going to apply to a different program because they think they have better chances. That will hurt you. Do not do that. We want to make sure that you have a very specific plan. You go into engineering, you start in engineering because our program starts day one. Okay, so do not try to think that there's somewhere to move internally. That's not something we do.
All right. Thank you so much. So kind of to sum that up, are you saying that if someone would like to eventually join USC Viterbi as an engineering major, they should apply directly rather than trying to transfer from school to school?
Yes, because the latter doesn't happen. All
right. Sounds good.
I mean, it is, let me put it this way. It's possible. It is not probable.
All right. Thank you. Our next question is, how important are grades? Do AP scores have an effect on how your grade for a class may be viewed?
Yeah, so let's back up and say, how do we review applications? Because grades, or I should say academic performance, is one of the most important things. We need to know, but grades in particular, or a GPA in particular, I'll tell you all right now, and you can write it down, your GPA doesn't mean a thing. Your GPA does not mean a thing because your GPA doesn't tell me the context. It doesn't tell me what classes you've taken. And so specifically what we want to be able to see is what classes have you taken, which is on your transcript, what classes were available at your school. In other words, what's the level of rigor, and what level have you engaged and actually succeeded in that level of rigor. That's not a GPA. That is grades relative to the rigor itself. And so we need to see that you have that. Now, specifically, the easy way to think of this is that there are easy classes at your high school and there are hard classes at your high school. If you take the easy classes at your high school and you get a 4.0, you are not getting admitted. If you take the hard classes at your school and you get A's and B's, more A's than B's, you're doing exactly what you need to do. That's perfect. And more specifically, all of your guys' GPAs are complete nonsense because every one of your schools are throwing in extra points. This idea of, you get extra points for that, you get extra points for that, you get extra points for that, and all of a sudden people come to me and say, like, I have a 4.6 GPA. No, you don't. That's nonsense. Let's strip all of that away and see what you've done. And it turns out you got A's and B's. Turns out everyone on this chat probably has around a 3.8 GPA. Sweet. Love it. You got 3.8. Maybe you got 3.7. That's cool. A's and B's, more A's than B's. That's why I always talk about the specific performance, A's and B's in rigorous courses. That's what I want to see. Specifically with the idea of coursework, we need to see in math and science preparation. You need to prove that you're prepared for the engineering curriculum, and that is higher level math and science classes. Specifically with mathematics, I need to be able to see that you have calculus, at least 1 year of calculus under your belt by the time you graduate. If calculus is in your senior year, that's totally fine, but keep in mind your fall semester senior year grades are going to be the most important. And if you've taken calculus in your junior year, then we want to be able to see that you've continued on with it if it's available at your school. And so if you've taken calculus in your junior year and there's more calculus available after that at your school, you should continue with that pathway. For lack of a better term, you should never divert from rigor. To make it even more to the point, don't take stats. You don't take stats unless you want to divert from rigor. Now, the only way you can take stats is if you've actually exhausted all of your calculus opportunities in high school. So if you've taken all those opportunities in high school, like maybe they only offer one class in stats, then go ahead and enjoy that vacation that is AP Stats, because I know it's a vacation, I know it's easier, and that's fine. But what we want to see is calc. It doesn't matter what level of calc. AP AB, APBC, IBHLAA, it doesn't matter. I don't care if it's dual enrollment. I don't care if it's something else. Whatever you're doing at your school, that is fine. Whatever you're doing, I just need to see, hey, have you taken calc and are you proving that you understand it and you're successful? That's what we want to understand. Now, all that said, the original question is, I'm probably way off beat from the original question, but the original question was, what do we got to do? What was the original question? Now I've lost it.
No worries. It was kind of regarding how if an AP score that's particularly good can offset. Sorry, go ahead.
Got it. Okay, cool. Thank you. I knew I got off track, but it's all related. This context is important. I hope everybody's finding it important. So we need to see that you've done it well. That said, you're all worried about this one particular part of your transcript, about this grade and that semester, that score and that semester, and I'll tell you all right now, it does not matter. Because what we need to understand is you have met the minimum expectations for academic preparation. Everything I've described is you've met the minimum expectations for engineering preparation. And if you've done that, cool, we can admit you. But we get 14,000 applications for the engineering school. And the grand majority of you that maybe sat through a random Discord audio AMA on a random Monday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon probably already has done all these things. I'm going to take a shot in the dark that 95% of you has actually done this, right? And in our applicant pool, about 80% of our applicants have done all these things, which means you all cancel each other out. You're all canceling each other out. This idea is, it's not about certain grades that you've taken, because you've all done it. And if you've all met those minimum expectations, our application process is not about reviewing your transcript in detail. It's about, did we meet the prep? Can we say that the student's going to be doing fine? Awesome, cool, we're moving on. Now what's left is everything else in the application, which I heard and saw a lot of whining in the chat about, oh my God, I don't like the questions, I don't know what I want to say, yada, yada, yada. That's how we get to know you guys, because you're not a number. You're not how well you did in a class. And if you took one class and you got an A-, should you be like, should you be not considered for the admission? Absolutely not. If you have a 3.7 and someone else has a 3.9, are they more prepared for our program and are they more attractive to us? Absolutely not. You're the same. You have met our minimum expectations for preparation. And so this is a really roundabout way, but I hope it's helpful, that you all are worried about very small, detailed things, and I know the amount of stress that goes into your lives, and you're worried about, and maybe your parents are adding on to that stress about like, oh my God, why didn't you get an A? You got an A minus. It doesn't matter, guys. You're doing the things to be prepared. That's what we want to see. Now the application is about who you are, and that's what the rest of those questions are. They're not repetitive. They're actually very specific, distinct questions. And we want to understand what they're all about. We want to understand more about you. And so if you can tell us your story, we're choosing people to join us in a selective fashion. We're not choosing people through a qualification standard. So down to the point of the original question, which was what about an AP score? Will it offset a grade? Probably not, but we do need to understand how we can understand everything in context. And if you believe that there's something that we would see a little weird, like maybe you got a really, really low grade on a calculus class and you got a really, really high grade on a score or vice versa, and we don't see alignment, then maybe that will raise an eyebrow, and maybe you want to be able to tell us a little bit more about that. What do you think happened? What's the context that we should be understanding? Because this process is, for USC and for the Viterbi School in particular, this is very personal to us. This is a very human process, and it's not anything that we can put into a spreadsheet that we are calculating. And so the question also implies some sort of quantification of the admission process, which we do not do. I would love to do that. That would make my job a lot easier. But what we're trying to do is understand who you are by reading and being human beings and trying to understand what's happening. So again, very long question to a very simple answer, but I hope that provided a little bit of context to everything.
Yeah, that definitely did. That was a great response based on the panic in chat.
I'm watching it happen right now.
Kind of going off of that as well, relating to like extracurriculars, do students need to have experience before they apply to a major? For example, if a student were applying for biomedical engineering and did not have many biomedical engineering extracurriculars, would that change how their application is viewed?
Who has biomedical engineering experience in high school? Angie, you want to take this? Because I've been talking a lot.
Sure. I've been enjoying watching the chat while you've been speaking.
I'm trying not to watch it because it's distracting me.
It's funny.
It is fun.
So you don't need to have any experience whatsoever to apply to biomedical, to apply to CS, to apply to chemical, whatever it is. We have many students who apply to USC without ever having taken a computer science or programming course and are very successful as computer science students. Well, we're not looking for specific clubs or organizations. We're not only looking for Project Lead the Way. We're not only looking for, I'm trying to think, robotics, things like that. We're not just looking for that. Now, if you're involved in those things, that's cool. And I see some of you saying that you are involved in it. But we have plenty of students who are involved in sports, in band, and who also apply to be engineers. And they are just as successful as the students who have had quote-unquote experience prior to that. And some of you might have research experience now or maybe taking certain engineering-related courses, but they're not going to be the same experiences as that you have at USC. It's not going to be a college-level research project. Some of you might be involved in some, but it's going to go much more in depth when you start at USC.
Yeah, and I think that, and I'm not taking the chat incredibly seriously because I understand the tone that's going on there. However, I think what some people need to understand is that to clarify on a lot of the stuff that's being said, just because I say something doesn't necessarily give you extra points doesn't mean we don't care about it. And what's problematic here is that you all believe it's some sort of zero-sum game, like you have to like gain points or lose points, and that's not how this works. My point is that there's no way to gain points. We don't have a preference for someone who is a certain way. And I'll take it a step further. We're not looking for anything in particular. And I know that's incredibly frustrating to some people because you want to be able to think that you have some sort of edge in this process because someone down the road, someone told you do that and you'll have a better chance. And what I really want you to all to understand is that you all still have the same equal chance because every single one of you has done your own unique set of things to create a pathway that's brought you to this point of applying. That's important. And I want to understand what that is. You all have extreme value to me in this process, no matter what you've done or how you've gotten here. And I want to understand what that is. And not one thing has more value than something else. Because if you went through this entire process of high school, and Angie mentioned band, and this is true for a lot of engineers, because there's this there is a connection between math and music, and a lot of you play a musical instrument. And some of you, in a really wrong way, you because of some sort of bad advice someone gave you that's not involved in admission, you downplay it because you think you're supposed to like upheave this idea of like, I'm super technical, and so I do only these certain things that are technical, yada yada. I want to know what you've done, and if you've taken this idea of like, you've been involved in band, and that meant 0 periods, and that meant after schools, and that meant traveling through the competition season, and that meant the ideas of games, and that's just your thing, and you became marching, you became drum leader, or any of that stuff that you've done, first chair, whatever that is. Maybe that's not marching band, maybe that's orchestra. Hey, that's cool. All of that has value. We want to understand what that is. And if you've done a lot of things, great. We want to understand that too. But we're not necessarily looking for technical students. We're not looking for students with a ton of experience. We're not looking for people that are well-rounded. We are actually looking for all of those types of students, because when we bring people in, we want to understand. I want to understand that we're getting someone new that's going to, when they sit down in their classroom, they're going to be incredibly different than the person sitting next to them. That's what we want to be able to understand. And so that means that everything has value and nothing has more value than something else. Doing something has more value than not doing something. I will clarify that. But we want to understand that you all have value based on what you've done, and we want to understand what that is. Don't try to shape your application towards what you think we're quote unquote looking for.
All right. Thank you so much. That was very insightful. Kind of now we're going to start moving into a bit more student life-based questions that were submitted. So we'll start off with, what do you think is the best thing about USC? Are there any unique traditions that students participate in?
Angie, you want to start? Angie, you there? She muted herself. Angie?
I muted. Oh my god! I muted myself, and then I started talking to myself.
Good job. Pro move.
Thank you. Best thing about USC, I was just going to say it changes based on who you ask. This is a tough question. Not because there isn't anything about USC. I just personally, best thing about USC for me is the small feel of it. I know we're a big university in the middle of a big city, but there is a small feel to it in your classes, in your clubs, what you're involved in, all those kinds of things. And I mean, in terms of tradition, this is a lot of tradition is rooted in sports here at USC. So one of my kind of favorite, also cheesy traditions is for football games. The Coliseum is right across the street, so students walk from campus to the Coliseum, and you kick the flagpole as you go along. I know it's kind of cheesy, but I did it once, and I felt cool. So I would say that's one of my favorite traditions.
Yeah, I mean, I think that with any kind of Division I school that has an athletic program, specifically a program that's kind of steeped in tradition as USC's are, and again, we're not unique in that. There are a lot of traditions related to that on game days, and the ideas of being part of the Trojan fan base and Cardinal and Gold and the marching band and the traditions of songs and stuff like that. And everybody can see most of that stuff online. But I think that there are other fantastic traditions that I don't think are really classified as traditions so much as just what students at USC and specifically in the Viterbi School do on a regular basis. And part of that has to do a lot with collaboration and the idea that students are always working together. And I think that is happening so often that people don't even think it's special but they don't understand that that's not necessarily how it runs at a lot of other engineering programs. So the fact that they're working together outside, our common areas, we keep continuing to add more common areas, more collaboration spaces. Our Baum Family Makerspace has been designed so that student individual design teams are working with no walls between them, and they have the opportunity to share materials and share advice and interesting ideas. That's super cool. And they're learning from each other and growing from each other. The idea of building something and breaking it and then trying to fix it again is something that is really done well when you're doing it with other people. And the tradition mostly of being part of downtown Los Angeles. The opportunities for impacting a direct community, I think, are incredibly valuable. And our students do that on the regular. And the idea that whether they're doing that through regular service opportunities through the university, getting involved in local elementary and middle schools and high schools about engage with the community and teaching them different things, but also the engineering school in particular does a lot of this by reaching out with a lot of STEM outreach. We have our own K through 12 STEM center that runs a number of different outreach programs that brings our students into schools to teach them about different concepts. We run our own robotics competition program for students in the local area because those schools cannot compete in things like FIRST. And so we are running this entire program completely on our own and coaching and mentoring these young students to get more involved in STEM. And these student organizations, such as the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, are bringing groups of people onto campus. Our Women in Engineering programs, our Society of Women Engineers, are bringing young girls onto campus and showing them different things, exposing them to different ideas. My favorite tradition is always watching Girl Scout Badge Day when the Society of Women Engineers brings in the young girls. It's usually a couple trips of either brownies or daisies, and they bring them in and they show them how to extract DNA from a strawberry. Very simple stuff I'm sure you all have done, but that the idea that they actually engage with that and they do that on our campus, I think, is a fantastic tradition.
Yeah, that all sounds really fun. I'm glad to hear a little bit about the Viterbi student culture. Another kind of question that was fun that we got was, how would USC Viterbi students complete the sentence? The one thing you really need to know about studying engineering at USC, but won't find out until you get here, is blank.
It's the hardest thing you've ever done. I never want to put words into our students' mouths. I think that you all can check this out. I'm going to put a link into the chat for Viterbi Voices, which is our website that our students run. And it's a website that is filled with blogs and videos and all sorts of other content that is completely run by our students telling you the story. And I think the thread that you'll see there is, man, this is hard, but thank God I've got people around me that are helping me, and I do a lot of cool things around it. And then in addition to that, I work with our students to take that type of concept and put that onto our podcast. And so Viterbi Voices, the podcast, which I didn't link it, I should actually link that, is a really helpful resource because we have 8 years of conversation related to interviewing our current students, our alumni, our faculty, all sorts of different things to hear their story about what it was like. And I think that you all should check that out because you'll really hear the real stories.
All right, that's a great resource. Thank you. Another question that we got was related to kind of the other part of applications regarding some of the supplemental essays. So what are some of your favorite essays that you've read while reading applications?
Angie?
I'm going to stray away from talking about specific topics because then students feel like they have to talk about this, but just be yourself. And I know you're all going to be like, what does that mean? Just whatever you define as yourself. You don't have to force yourself to write more than necessary. If you can, be yourself and answer the question in the amount of words that you need to answer. You don't need to be someone you're not in the application. And I think oftentimes students want to know, what do they want to read? And it's not about what we want to read, it's about what you want to tell us more about yourself. And those are ultimately the students who come across as genuine and whose essays are the funnest to read and whose short answers let us, in 250 words or less. Those students are usually the ones that we can really see who they truly and genuinely are. So just be yourselves. Don't think you have to write a certain way or be it someone you're not when you're writing those essays.
Yeah, I mean, more to the point, I don't have a favorite essay. I have many that were horrible. I sometimes there's always a question like, how do I stand out? I'm like, you don't want to stand out, man. Like when you stand out, it's never really good because the only people that have ever stood out in me doing this for over 20 years are the bad ones. And The bad ones are ones where you all didn't, and Angie used the word "be yourself," which I agree with. I'll add an element to it. It's keeping an authentic voice inside of the application. Who are you is a question that we're asking throughout the entire application. And if you strategize the application, and I'll give you a really simple way that you do this, and you may not even know that you're doing it, is when you look at a prompt for one of our short answer questions and you sit back and like, what are they looking for here? What would be the answer that I'm really looking at? You're doing it wrong, because there should be some sort of instinct as to how you are telling your story inside of that question, and don't overthink it. And another thing that happens a lot in the essay in particular is that it is so over polished, because I know you all started it at some point, maybe junior year in high school. It's gone through various different edits. Maybe some of you even have counselors that have done different edits on that. I don't even know if it's your writing anymore. And because it becomes, this idea of understanding that I can read this essay, I'm like, oh my God, this is just filled with beautiful imagery and everything else. But if it's not an actual real answer and it's yourself anymore, or the idea that the person who wrote that and the words that are being used here are not the same as the rest of the application, then I start to have questions about that. We want to understand who you are. And if you play games with us, then that doesn't help us understand that. So this is not a game. As you can tell, and as I'm pretty sure that the chat can tell, I don't play games. I keep it incredibly real. This is a process that is incredibly challenging, and nothing is going to change that. All we can do is tell you to help us understand you the best way possible. When we want to understand you, that's really what we're trying to do, because we've chose this profession for a job. We're just trying to understand who you are, what you do, how you do it, why you do it, the context of that, and then help us figure out how we can choose our students for our incoming student class. And that is a collaborative process across a lot of different people at USC. It's not just Angie and myself.
All right. Thank you so much. One of our last questions that was submitted was, does Viterbi have their own scholarships that one can apply to? Are there separate deadlines for these in admissions?
There is nothing extra that anybody needs to do. There is no scholarship application, and there's nothing extra for the specific Viterbi School of Engineering. And so in order to be considered for scholarships at the university, anyone that's listening now must get their application submitted by the November 1st early action deadline. And so you must get your application in by November 1st. If you do that, then you will be considered for all possible scholarships. And all possible scholarships are university-wide scholarships, and then there are some Viterbi-specific scholarships, but that is all part of the same admission and scholarship review process. Nothing extra that we need to do. All scholarships range from a couple $1,000s, quarter tuition, half tuition, full tuition scholarships.
All right. Thank you so much for that clarification. Thank you guys for your valuable insights, and all of you members for your questions. This concludes our AMA. If you guys have any lingering questions, please don't feel shy to reach out to our mod team. And if you guys, the admissions officers, want to drop your contact information, any social media links, or places to reach, feel free to do that in event chat. And thanks again, everybody.
Can I add one plug?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I'm putting it in the chat. Thank you all for being here today. I think it was super fun. Something new for us. It's the first time I've ever been on Discord, and so thank you for being, well, a good number of you are being so kind. Not all of you, and I'm looking you up as I speak. Take a look at our events page. We have a ton of events that are in person. They have virtual events. We have events that are completely around the world. And if you are a current senior in high school that's going to be applying for Fall 23, I'd love you to check that out, because this was just a fun, quick conversation of a little bit under an hour, but we go longer in our full sessions, and we have our current students there as well, so you can talk to them about it, and you can see our faces, and we do cool stuff in videos and stuff like that. So we want to be able to do that. So check out our events. And please join. Once you do that, then you can come see some cool stuff. And another big plug, we're having a big open house on October 23rd, and everyone is invited. Love to have you there. So I hope that helps. So viterbiadmission.usc.edu/events.
Right. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I just one quick thing. I saw through the chat. Paul and I represent the Viterbi School of Engineering at USC. I think there were a few people who joined in who weren't necessarily interested in engineering or computer science, but we're here anyway. I think I saw someone who's interested in cinema. So we only represent the Viterbi School, but if you are interested in something outside of engineering, and of course we encourage anyone to apply to engineering, but if anyone is not sure who to contact and you're interested in another major, I just put a link in the chat so you can find your general USC admission counselor, and you can reach out to them if you have questions about things outside of engineering and computer science too.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Yeah.